biomedical image processing course. Today we will see how to make system automated for detection of diabetic retinopathy. Let us start with a background as introductory information for automation. There are strong reasons why we will design retinopathy risk reduction programs need to be implemented on a large scale. The importance of such program and the difficulty of achieving reliable early diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy at reasonable cost merit considerable efforts in order to develop and evaluate computer aided diagnosis system. So why is computer aided diagnosis software not yet widely used in this setting program, and diverse application possibility encountered by people reasonable of such program and not to be considered in the programs where the opportunities and threats anyone introducing computer aided diagnosis in their particular field. There are many reasons why everybody who has diabetics should receive regular eye examination, and for that we have to go for the mass examination of eyes of diabetic subjects. Through this mass examination, vision, if lost due to diabetics, is greatly feared by people with diabetics. Such subjects can be examined and have early detection. Indeed, the result of survey conducted by American Foundation for the Blind indicate that people with diabetics fear blindness even more than premature death. Considerable income losses and costs are borne by people with diabetics and their family also, by society and by healthcare providers. In mass eye examination camp, if we conduct and capture, examine the group of large huge amount of people at a time with automated system, then it will be faster, accurate, and a first type of screening can be possible to do. Ocular complication of diabetic frequently occur, causing major economic and social problems and also impairing quality of the life of subjects. Diabetic eye diseases may progress to a level that is threatening sight without causing symptoms that may bring the person with diabetic to doctor. Hence, maximum uptake of screening and to timely rescreening is necessary. There is incontrovertible evidence that timely treatment prevents or delay loss of sight. In majority cases, the patient will approach to the doctor when their vision will be completely lost. They are not aware about their vision can started to be lost. Therefore, compulsory screening of the masses is must. Large settlement have been paid to a people diagnosed with the sight losses, vision losses of diabetic retinopathy, a family of conditions defined by some of the factors but not all authors as severe non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy and proliferative diabetic retinopathy, which are again of sometime a hard exudate or sometime the soft exudates within one disc diameter of the center of fovea too late for effective treatment. Diabetic prevalence now seems to be increasing even more rapidly than previously predicted. So that's why the examination of the subjects in a camp is must, and it should be happened frequently. It is thus not surprising that considerable efforts have been made to diagnose DR and the STDR also. At early stage, when we try to diagnose these two types, when timely treatment may slow or prevent the diabetics for the subjects, diabetic, and prevent vision loss of those subjects. Therefore, however, important lesions to be learned regarding how to set up, carry out, and monitor such programs. To quote one of the maximum contribute to this particular type of program who lived in the first century better used medicine at the outset than the last moment. So it seems that we have to take a lot of precaution before the such type of disease can be progresses than at the end when we lost the vision. This should be possible because accurate diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy and their various stages can deliver feedback, information to patient and other member of diabetics. There is clear evidence from well-designed controlled clinical trials that improved medical treatment delays or prevents the occurrences of the diabetics. For full effect, however, 5 to 7 years are needed. Therefore, early diagnosis of the earliest sign of diabetic retinopathy and accurate follow-up of progression of the diabetic retinopathy at predefined interval will provide necessary information for diabetics management in order for the prognosis to be deduced and importantly in time for improved treatment to be effective. There is clear evidence from well-designed controlled clinical trials that the right kind of timely laser photocoagulation of STDR prevents or delayed worsening of visual acuity. Moreover, promising new methods for treatment of inflammation and other aspects of diabetic retinopathy are underway, causing increased interest among the diabetologists for reliable diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy stages. Proceeding, STDR is the disease through which, from the point of view of ophthalmologist, it is important not to become overloaded with large number of diabetic patients, not strictly needing immediate treatment by the retinal specialist. From the patient point of view, however, securing timely treatment is of high importance. There will probably never be enough ophthalmologists to follow up every person with diabetics by clinical examination. Thus, we need a systematic approach to delivering the right patient at the right time to the right doctor to ensure adequate and timely treatment. Such screening process of the subject in a masses are further explained in their detailed process. Like, we need a systematic approach to delivering the right patient at the right time to the right doctor to ensure adequate and timely treatment. Screening may be defined as a public health intervention intended to improve the health of a precisely defined target population. Within this population, we individual considered at risk of the effective of the condition. Screening is justified by the awareness of the condition as an important public health issues which are suffering among the societies. It is the anticipated identification of those who may have a problem and who might benefit from further investigation as well as the treatment plan. It is therefore involved the application of quick and simple tests, usually by paramedics, to large number of public or a person, so that those with a possible problem can be identified and intervention can be made for such population. Screening does not make the final diagnosis. This is why the term easily diagnosed is preferred by certain careful workers whose standard of image quality and reliability of grading are consistently high enough to enable final diagnosis of the diabetic retinopathy as well as STDR to be made. Screening is never something that should be undertaken casually, and it is always be careful, monitored and evaluated. Without strict criteria, monitoring is impossible. We have practical important concept of a screening method that we will see the step by step in progressive slides. Opportunity screening is concept and a term that should be avoidable. Unfortunately, some ophthalmologists understand screening to mean hurried global diagnosis impression unworthy of adequate recording of finding. Screening, in contrast, means a systematic approach that has nothing to do with imprevention. The term ad hoc screening is thus a misnomer, whereas screening is expensive and is intervention that is thrust on the public rather than a response to an individual seeking help to the symptom. This way, we go for a planning of the masses of screening. So first do forming a schedule of a screening with number of patients per unit period of time, and then do the allotment and finally have a screening. It must therefore be constantly and carefully monitored both for its process and its effectiveness. In masses, when we do a screening, it should be properly managed. False negative tests are constant source of concern, and there is often public outrage when an important condition such as STDR or cancer of the eye diseases has been missed sometime. Therefore, false positive tests cause undue information and wasted of the resources, as well as it may be happen that the patient may not be ready to do for the examination, sometime re-examination too. For the screening program to be effective, it must reach a high proportion, ideally 100% of the population at risk. Failure to achieve this leads to the failure to the program to meet its target. Hence, it must be properly managed, scheduled for the subjects. Coverage is defined as the proportion of the target population successfully tested in such screening activity. Reaching out into the community is important. Keep in mind that those hardest to reach in a screening program may suffer from the worst diseases. In diabetics, it may be bilateral immunity. The senior citizens who is in the denial of maybe just touch of the sugar, and such patient might be suffering with a lot many other diseases which may not be aware to those subjects, and such screening will help us to diagnose them and have early treatment for majority of the patients. Or the resentful, indifferent young person with diabetics who are the least likely to comply with an invitation for an eye examination, and yet they might be the most likely to be in need of treatment. Such diagnosis is only possible if we do compulsory examination for each individual of the society. There is some evidence that visual handicap is associated with poor attendance at diabetic clinics, which underline the importance of finding people with diabetics and making efforts to improve coverage of eye examination. Uptake defined as the proportion attending of all those invited is always higher than the population coverage, because some are not invited for various reasons, and hence it should be all inclusive without any age category, without any gender differentiation. It must be the compulsory to each and everybody who are currently living in the society. Some successful programs have reached more than 75% initial screening uptake and more than 85% may found to whom the treatment is given. Whereas diabetics is difficult because early stages of the disease are not able to give any symptoms. At best, 2 of 3 people with diabetics are diagnosed in everyday health care settings. Coverage of diabetic retinopathy screening is thus likely to be overestimated. Coverage and update efforts are needed to record prevalence of diabetic retinopathy and of its various stages, thus also influencing measured sensitivity and specificity of computer-aided diagnosis software. For re-examination, many barriers to care need to be overcome. Working together with diabetics organization, patient groups and primary health care staff is one way of increasing the coverage of such mass screening programs. Good evidence on reaching out into the community is available from the Center for Eye Research program, which happen in everywhere in throughout the worldwide population area. Apparently, achieving timely rescreening at predefined interval is even more difficult than optimizing coverage of first examination. Both are important for long-term outcome of the program to get the success and to reduce the sight loss vision of the population. Overall, we summarize that computer aided is the early diagnosis process of diabetic retinopathy. We have come across with the points like background introduction, mass examination of eyes for diabetic subjects, motivation to do such mass screening of retinopathy, the screening process, importance concept about the screening and re-examination process. With this we conclude, and the next continuation we will see in the successive module. Thank you very much.